Welcome to another edition of the Huddle House. It's gonna be a good one. I'm here with Ty once again. We're always here. Unfortunately, we bring you no guests this week. It's a week we kind of had to throw together a little bit. We couldn't go 2 weeks in a row without an episode. That would just be a crime against humanity. So we had to bring y'all one this week, but little late in the night. I blame you, Carter. You just want to go to bed too early. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing well, man. I guess well as I can be after the past 2 weeks. Team's fallen to 3-3, but hopefully we'll be on the upswing here and getting healthy. I'm trying to motivate the guys this week.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're all trying to get healthy now. It seems like I think Taylor practicing this week. Swift, they're saying, is probably a game time decision, but he's looking like he's trending up, to possibly play. So you might finally have the guys back in the lineup.
It was such a rough swing last week because I thought I was going to have Taylor, and then not only is he surprisingly out, Hines is also out, and that allows James to throw in Deion Jackson, who had 22 points. Like, that was such a costly swing for me, and I had to throw in Phillip Lindsay because Swift was on bye and injured. So that was, my team didn't play well regardless, but that was the defining point of the game, and I had a feeling it was going to be as soon as that news broke. I was like, well, shoot, man, tough break. But a good win for him. He absolutely needed that. So he's 3-3. A lot, there's a lot of parity in the league this year. Yeah, we were talking about it before. From the 10 spot up to the 1, we have undefeated up top, and at 10 we're 3-3. So it's still a pretty thin margin between teams all up and down. These next few weeks are going to be really important in defining the contenders, the pretenders, and who's going to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe we can play a little like pretenders, contenders type game tonight, go over the matchups, but then just sort of mention the guys in the matchups and who we think's legit, who we think's have just kind of got some lucky breaks,
We love to put targets on our backs for some reason. I still don't understand why we do that.
If you don't want to, and we don't have to. But,
no, let's roll.
All right. So let's kind of talk about the matchups real briefly, kind of last week, kind of go over a little bit about what we saw. Mostly because I think I really want to talk about my matchup, which not going to act like my team did great. Not going to come out here and be like, oh, we balled out. We delivered on expectations. We definitely did not. But we got to win. A win's a win. And not only did we get a win, we got a win against Jake. That felt real nice. It felt nice seeing his team just crash and burn. Put up 63 points. This man trying to trade Melvin Gordon for seconds just a couple days prior, and he puts up a solid 0.8. You'll love to see it. You'll love to see Jake go through an absolute clunker in the matchup his team needed the most. So it felt pretty good.
Yeah, his team, they've been interesting this year. They'll explode some weeks, and then they'll just completely disappear others. And you caught him on a big-time disappear week. 63 points that's pretty rough. Pretty rough.
I would have liked to have won a matchup where I put up 125, 130, and he puts up 110 or something, and we both played pretty decent, and I just was better, ideally, in a perfect world. But I'm just happy to be on the winning side of that matchup. It's over. I don't have to face him again until possibly the playoffs. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But, not facing him again in the regular season. So I get the bragging rights this year. We have that in common, Ty.
That's right. I caught him on a down week as well. So, yeah, we both beat Jake.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, we can toast to that. Just in general about that matchup, not really too much to say. My team sucked. But fun fact, though, I was telling Marcus this. I got more points from my tight end this week, Robert Tonyan, 14, than I had in my first 5 weeks combined at the tight end position. I put up 12.8 points at tight end in 5 weeks.
Wow.
Combined.
Yeah, tight end's been a wasteland this year, man. That's
common. I know wasteland, but 12.8 points in 5 weeks? I had 2 goose eggs in a 1 week where I put up 0.18 at tight end. I'm just like, geez, man, just get a catch. Like, so
Yeah.
at least I finally got a little bit of production at that position this week.
Yeah, a little bit, and that was a big game for him, and there might be more in store now with that Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he got 12 targets. Like Rodgers didn't throw it to anybody else really. It seemed like he liked Tunyon. I mean, he's always been the type of guy that he's been a spot start in fantasy where you know he's only going to get 3-4 targets, and you just hope one of them's in the end zone. Like that's always how he's been. Kind of like that CJ Uzama for the Bengals, where it's like you don't want to ever play him, but he might have a week here and there where he scampers into the end zone and it turns into an okay week. But he doesn't do that. He's normally pretty useless.
He was
Thankfully.
about the only useful thing on Green Bay's offense the Sunday. Gosh,
Yeah.
it wasn't Aaron Rodgers. I'll tell you that. He was far
Yeah.
from the most useful thing. Lazard had a solid game, but
Yeah.
Rodgers is he looks.
Yeah, we can toast to that too this year, Ty. For some reason, we have quarterbacks that are supposed to be good that are not playing well this entire season.
Yeah.
Stafford's is more just due to a bajillion mistakes, and Rodgers is just due to throwing no touchdowns. Like, just having that no touchdown volume and not really throwing for that many yards. He's in the 200s for yardage almost every single game.
My quarterback would rather take hallucinogens and make millions of dollars than win football games and make millions.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I can blame him for, but for my fantasy's sake, I wish he'd just care a little bit more about winning this year.
If he does this again to you, Ty, I think you might need to consider changing the profile picture. He might not deserve it anymore.
That's a good point that I hadn't even thought about, honestly. It might be time for a picture swap. That picture is. I might have to
It's a great picture, but he hasn't lived up to that picture, He doesn't deserve that picture.
Maybe he needs a new name. The immunizer is so last year. He's immunized my team with mediocrity, it seems.
Yeah.
Maybe he's done did that. Maybe we should change something else.
No, I think what your picture should be is the picture of him against Tampa last week, with the back of his head with the hair like over his ears, but then the rest of his hair like bald. Did you see that picture? It's the worst haircut I've ever seen in my life. He looks like he's homeless.
Yeah,
you need to make it that because that's more justifying for Rodgers this season.
We'll see. Everything's up for debate right now with me. But
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you kind of talked about your matchup a little bit. Any other thoughts you kind of want to share about just the general takeaways?
No, man. I mean, I'm just feel like it's lacking explosive. I think that's the biggest thing my team feels like it's lacking. It's just explosive players. I feel like I have a lot of floor players, and the ceiling plays have just not necessarily been there this year. And hopefully, that's going to be Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift. And I've only had them together, I think, like, 1 or 2 weeks this season. So hopefully I can get them both back this week, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And I mean, you have Taylor who gets crazy volume but hasn't been efficient. And then you get Swift who's been crazy efficient but is getting no volume. It's just like Swift's getting like 10 yards a carry. He'll have like 8 carries for 90 yards, it's like have some pop-off runs, but it's just like, man, where's the volume? And then you have Taylor who's getting 32 carries for 70 yards, It's just like, it's weird.
It's a little confounding. I don't know. But the Colts look like, they're struggling, but they managed to string together some wins. I think they're putting some things together a little bit. So hopefully they'll come around. But yeah, man, let's just dive into some of the stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the league and show some other people some love and create some conversation here. Where would you like to start?
Yes, I mean, we like I said, we can go through the matchups from last week if we want, and then just talk about the teams in general, or we can just go through the teams and just give our analysis. I'm good with either.
I feel like we should make it more of a preview for this upcoming week than a
reflection. Okay. Yeah, let's go over the next week. Sorry guys, we only got to talk about our matchups from last week. So it's an interesting week. We got some matchups that should be fairly easy wins, for guys where it's not uber competitive, but we also have some pretty competitive matchups. So let's dive into James versus Jordan. Mm-hmm. We got a guy in James who's 3-3, probably underperformed expectations this year a little bit, versus Jordan, who's obviously shattered every expectation that any of us had for him. I mean, we were talking about that pick in the offseason, like his pick was going to be top 3, like I don't think anyone believed in him. And he's sitting here 6-0. So it's. Do you think James gives him his first loss this week?
I do, and it's. I just feel like the shoe's got to drop at some point for Jordan because it's not like he's been out, crazy outscoring the rest of the league. He's been getting some good matchups and some opportune performances. But I think now, Hollywood Brown's out, and they said that's a pretty bad one. Like 4 to 6 weeks is what I've seen. So I think that might be a big hit for him because if you're looking at people who can fill that role for him, it's Jerry Jeudy, who is, part of the Broncos that nobody really wants right now. Jacoby Myers, who's a floor player. And then other than that, man, there's really not that many people to slide in and take his spot in that wide receiver spot or in the flex because Cordero Patterson's banged up. Jarvis Landry's been banged up. I mean, he's just got a lot of injuries on his team right now. And that Hollywood Brown one is going to be very significant because he had been one of his best players and one of his most consistent players this whole season. I mean, he's the number 5 wide receiver on the year. So I do think that if there were to be a week that the shoe could drop, since it hasn't happened yet, it could be this week. Seems like it'd be one where it could. But then again, you look across the way, and I just did noticing this. The Vikings are on a bye. I've forgotten about that. So James is trotting out Davis Mills. I mean, that's a liability, I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can feel confident starting Davis Mills. He does get DeAndre Hopkins back, which is going to be very interesting because he could directly benefit from no Hollywood Brown being a target monster that he
Yeah.
had.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think D-Hop is in as good of a shape as any to come in with fresh legs this week, no Hollywood, and put up a monster performance. I think James wins this. What's the betting line, Ty, for Jordan starting Hollywood Brown this week due to just forgetting to set his lineup?
I don't think that'll happen. I think he's been on it pretty good this year.
Pretty good. Had to throw in a little roast.
He's got a big Thursday night tomorrow. He's got Kyler, Alvin Kamara, and Zach Ertz. Oh, but Hollywood is on Thursday.
Yeah, he has tomorrow.
That definitely makes it a little more likely, I feel like.
He'll set it due to Austin reminding him probably. If Austin doesn't remind him, he won't set it. We'll see. I mean, he started Jacoby Myers a couple weeks ago on a week he was out. So, I mean, we'll see. If he starts Hollywood, I'm giving James an easy dub this week.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. James' lineup is deep, man.
Yeah, he's got a very deep lineup for sure. He's got a bench.
Yeah, he's got Christian Kirk and McLaurin on the bench this week.
It's nice. All right, so we got a real pesky one, Ty. This is gonna be a tricky one to pick. We got Marcus versus Mitri.
I was actually speaking with Marcus about this one today.
Let me guess. He called it a trap game.
In those words, essentially, not quite that same way, but yeah, he just seemed like he's worried about his wide receiver core of Tyler Boyd, Cortland Sutton, Jahan Dotson, and Corey Davis.
Yeah.
Still argue I would take those guys over Zay Jones, Curtis Samuel, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Noah Brown. So, I mean, I think, like, if it's a wash, you still have, like, the advantage there. I mean, you're obviously missing Justin Jefferson, but
yeah,
I still it's the advantage at every position other than tight end.
Yeah,
and I feel like that, not looking at defense and kickers, just skill position wise, I give Marcus.
And even Waller, I mean, hasn't proven to be a huge advantage.
Yeah, he has
maybe at talent level, but not really in production. Waller sucked this year, so in
a year when every tight end is bad, you expect, and Waller is one of the guys who's supposed to be a guy. He's tight end number 20. That's craziness, dude. What?
Yeah. I mean, he's not young either. It's like it's one thing for Kyle Pitts to go through the motions and kind of bust a little bit. I mean, that's obviously still sucks, but at least you're like, okay, he's, really young and probably going to get better and better as his career goes on. But I mean, Waller's, almost 30, it's like, or it's
Jacob could have a nice little something if Benjamin is the number 1 tomorrow night. Well, I guess tonight when people will be watching this, but if James Conner misses, I think he's questionable for a game time decision. Played 87% of the snaps last week. Just their offense didn't really do anything. which could be the case next week. I mean, the Saints defense is solid against the run. But yeah. And then Wan'Dale Robinson got a touchdown last week, only on the field for 23% of the plays, but he's getting worked back in. They have no one else to throw the ball to. So Mitri has some potential there. I can see what Marcus is saying, but I still think he has positional advantage everywhere.
Yeah. Marcus should win. I think Marcus is a little skeptical after last week, but now we got Lucas versus Carter. Neither team really performed great this year. Carter's rolling in with Brandon Bolden this week just because he doesn't have any Darrell Henderson.
It's tough.
Yeah, so I mean, not really what you want is Brandon Bolden as your RB2. So that's gonna hurt him really bad. Also having to roll in with Donovan Peoples-Jones as well, just because he doesn't have his boy Skowronek, who he's been starting.
I hate this guy, by the way.
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
You have every reason to. So yeah, Carter's looking a little banged up, a little depleted. Meanwhile, you have Lucas, who seems to be just about at full strength. It seems like
missing his quarterback.
I mean, he doesn't have Jalen Hurts. Yeah, but
that's a big miss. That's been one of his best players.
Yeah, that is a big miss for sure. But as far as his other skill positions, it seems like he's pretty much at full strength. As long as all those questionable guys end up playing, which it looks like they all should. I'm going Lucas here. Think he pulls it out.
I think it's so interesting. He dropped the whole threatening to trade Derek Carr, be like, if anybody wants him, I'm most likely he's not going to be on my team at the end of this week. A few weeks ago, and now he's starting for him. But yeah, I think I like Lucas in this matchup too. It's just a rough break there having to start Brandon Bolden because Darrell Henderson's going to be a smash play the rest of this season. Hopefully he gets Olave back. It looks like he doesn't have any designation, so that'll be good for Carter to have him back. But again, the Saints passing offense is kind of struggling with Andy Dalton, and I don't know if it's going to be him or Jameis. And Matt Ryan, I just don't know if it's repeatable, man. He had 20,
Matt Ryan's not capable of having 2 good weeks in a row. So I mean,
27 points, but it took 58 passes. It took literally everything he had. So I don't know if I think that I'm going Lucas here too.
Yeah. All right, so we got Jake versus Caleb. So we got Jake who needs to win, and Caleb that hates to win. So Caleb's out here probably being like, Jake, please beat me. He's been openly begging people to beat him and rooting for his opponents. But yet here comes Caleb, not even been able to lose right, 4-2. Not doing the one thing he needs to do. So let's see if he can pull out another win this week against Jake. Oh, that would be crushing for Jake. What are you thinking here?
Man. The thing is, it's so nice because, what's nice about Caleb's team is his investment in the Chiefs. If Mahomes has a good game, it's likely that Edwards-Helaire and Smith-Schuster, the tide kind of rises all ships there.
Yeah.
We definitely got a little lucky with the Chase Claypool game last week. He kind of came out of the woodwork and really popped off, and he hadn't been doing that all season. Gesicki the same way. Kenneth Walker certainly something to be exciting about. I think he's going to be an awesome player for the rest of the season. And, the start of
he looked like a stud. I mean, Caleb was raving about this dude the entire bachelor party trip. I was like, yes, Caleb, I know he's good. I don't need to watch 35 highlight videos while we're sitting around the living room. But he's been ranting and raving about him, and he's barely seemed to be touching the field this season. But I got to see some of his film, from Sunday, and he looks like the real deal. I mean, his shiftiness, his speed, he looks like a franchise running back.
Explosive, certainly. But I think I'm going to go with Jake in this one. I think Brady is going to come out and pummel the Panthers. I think he's going to be pissed off after that loss. I think he's going to hang a ton of points up. And I think just the rest of his matchups look really good. I think that, because of my belief in Brady this week, that certainly elevates Mike Evans.
Yeah.
And, I think the Austin Eckler Chargers versus Seattle, that's an easy matchup for them, hopefully to exploit. And Brian Robinson didn't look too bad himself last week in that role. So I think what might have been a pick that was ridiculed a little bit during the draft really it seems like an extreme value, one that I wish I could have made because he's a starting running back now. So I'm going Jake here. I think it's going to be a good week for him.
Yeah, I gotta go Jake. Jake either puts up 70 points or he puts up like 140. I think he's closer to putting up the 140 this week. His team has no like average level, and I feel like my team is nothing but that. Like I can put up 100 to 115 every single week for the most part. I think my lowest has been 90 or 96, which is still not, I mean, that's not good, but I'm saying like that's like when that's your absolute floor and you're right around 100 to 115 every week, it's like you're at least, putting up decent floors. And Jake doesn't have that level. Like he either like does nothing or he just goes off. Like, I think we're getting one of those weeks though where he goes off, bounces back, and takes down Caleb. I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we got you versus Austin.
Yeah.
The week you both really need, obviously, but Austin, it's like, where are you out of your Austin? You're in the championship last year, make a great run. Najee looks like, probably number 2 in dynasty for running backs. Elijah Moore looked like a star in the making last season. And then this season comes out and it's just like Najee's kind of average at best, not having a very good year. Elijah Moore is like completely disappeared from existence. AJ Dillon's been a little bit underwhelming, not really on volume, but just production, It's like, where are you at when you're sitting there with his roster, having Andrews and all these guys and being 1-5?
I mean, it's got to be frustrating. I mean, he never talks about it, but I can't imagine. I mean, he's got to be upset. I think the amount of people that complain and gripe in the chat, rightfully so, because this is a frustrating game. I feel like Austin could be at the top of the list, but he never says anything. So it's like you forget. You almost forget that he's going through this struggle, but you're right. He was in the championship. I think it's been a weird mix of some intense regression on his team and then also just a lot of injuries. Like Herbert got injured earlier this year. That's kind of handicapped him a little bit. A lot of regression from Najee in the passing game has really killed his value. Elijah Moore, just a first-round pick, came in, and the Jets are set on like not letting Zach Wilson pass the ball to decide them games. They just want to run the ball. AJ Dillon, the whole Packers have regressed. Their whole offense. Mark Andrews, that passing offense has been kind of off the past few weeks. Chase Edmonds has been replaced by Raheem Mostert in the lead role. We didn't think that'd be the case. Keenan Allen out the whole season.
Yeah.
And then even before that, Calvin Ridley, the year-long suspension. Like, he's just had a lot of stuff, kind of random things.
And Amon-Ra was one of his best players, and he's missed the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Amon-Ra's been injured. So I think, he has as much reason to gripe as anyone, and I think he has a lot of good players on this team. So it's weird seeing him 1-5. And not just 1-5, but kind of like low scoring pretty much every week, too. It's not been like he's losing close games.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, one of the only bright spots has been Dameon Pierce. That guy's came out of nowhere and been one of the best running backs in the league in regards to efficiency. And hearing, Lovey come out and say, we're going to give this guy 20 touches a game, like, you love to see that they've kind of accepted him as, like, this is their back. They're not using Rex Burkhead. They're not using anybody. It's literally the Dameon Pierce show. So he's got himself a workhorse, a bell cow, who's pretty much getting the entire snap share right now. And he's been very effective with it. I mean, you're looking at Dameon Pierce right now. He's the